Have you ever come across something unexpectedly that stops you in your tracks? Something that shocks you or takes your breath away or settles heavily on your heart? It may be something that you saw on the news or something that you witnessed in your own life, something overwhelming, even awe-inspiring. Moments like this don't simply pass by. They settle in our minds and in our hearts, and they linger. Over time, they begin to shape the world that we see, and sometimes they begin to ask something of us, even when we're not quite sure what it is or how we will respond. This week's Torah portion, Shemini, unfolds around a moment like that. After weeks of preparation, after careful instruction, after anticipation has been building and building, the Mishkan is finally complete. The people stand together, waiting with bated breath to experience what it might mean for God's presence to dwell among them. Aaron brings the offering exactly as commanded, and in response, Eish milifnei Adonai, a fire, comes forth from God. A sense of awe ripples through the community. Something sacred is unfolding, something larger than any one person, something that draws everyone in all at once. And then, without warning, in front of the whole community, Nadav and Abihu, Aaron's sons, step forward and bring their own fire. Eish Zara, a strange fire, not asked by God. And in an instant, they are consumed by this fire. Shock spreads just as quickly. What began as a moment of awe becomes something else entirely, something disorienting, something frightening, something that no one there could ever forget. The entire community is stunned and shaken. They have just seen something that they cannot unsee. Aaron, father, priest, witness, stands in the middle of it all, unable to speak. No words come. Vayidom Aharon. This is his response. Not words, not action, silence. A response to something so overwhelming that words cannot contain it. But what about Nadav and Abihu? They don't stand in silence. They react. Without weighing their options, without pausing to discern what the moment is asking of them. Moved by passion, caught up in the intensity of the moment, they bring their own fire, their own interpretation of what the moment requires. And yet, their response is not aligned with what the moment calls for. There is something deeply human in that. For moments that move us can overwhelm us and prevent us from making the best decision or even a decision. They stir something powerful inside of us, urgency, emotion, conviction. And in that intensity, it can become difficult to distinguish between what we feel compelled to do and what is actually being asked of us. What would be the most human response, the most moral response, maybe even the most compassionate response? As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs teaches, the challenge is not a lack of passion. The challenge is knowing how to hold that passion with enough humility to recognize that the moment itself may be asking something different. And so, the Torah gives us language for that discipline. L'havdil bein hakodesh uvein hachol, to distinguish, to pause long enough to thoughtfully discern between what is sacred and what is ordinary, what is life-affirming and what diminishes life. To create space, not to withdraw, but to see more clearly. to resist the pull of immediate reaction and instead respond with intention, to remain open to the possibility that the fullest understanding of a moment may not come from within us alone, and to ask gently, but honestly, what am I really seeing? And then what is the moment asking of me? Not what do I feel like doing, but what is being asked of me? Because not every moment calls for the same response. Some moments call for silence. Some call for gratitude. Some call for compassion. And some call for the courage to speak and to act. There are moments in our lives that do this to us, moments we cannot unsee. I remember standing in Poland for the very first time, walking through Auschwitz, Birkenau, Treblinka, and Majdanek. And almost immediately, I was confronted with the magnitude of what happened there. Rooms filled with human hair, mountains of shoes, suitcases with names still written on them, names that felt familiar, like the names of my own relatives that I got to see. Crematoria still standing, hearing witness to what took place. Mounds of human ashes, evidence of lives interrupted, stolen, erased. And something shifts. Not at first, but slowly it became undeniable. I realized I was not just learning history, I was witnessing something that reshaped how I understand humanity itself. Those images don't stay in the past. They settle into you. They linger, and you don't get to unsee them. You don't get to unfeel them. And when that happens, the question is no longer what you have seen, but what do you do with what you've seen? For me, the answer was not to walk away unchanged. It was to return, to bring others there, to stand as witness, to teach, to make sure that never again is not just something we say, but something that we live. As a side note, as a community, we will gather on Monday night for Yom HaShoah to pay tribute and to remember and to make sure to recommit ourselves to what never again asks of us. And yet, not all the moments we cannot unsee belong to the past. Sometimes they are unfolding in front of us, right before our eyes. We see them in the images that come across our screens today. Stories of immigrants, many simply seeking safety or stability, taken from their homes, from their families, from the places where they belong, without due process of law. We hear accounts of what is happening, of overcrowded conditions, of uncertainty, of human beings held in ways that strip them of dignity. And once again, we are confronted with something we cannot unsee, something we cannot unhear. And so this past Sunday, during the holiday of freedom and liberation, we went en masse to the Everglades Detention Center, what some call Alligator Alcatraz, not as a political act, but as a moral one, rooted in the very story of liberation that we tell on Passover. Because what we have seen and what we have heard firsthand through personal accounts demanded a response. And maybe this is what Lehavdil looks like in our lives, the ability to distinguish not only between sacred and ordinary, but between moments that pass us by and moments that call us forward. To recognize when we are being asked not just to witness, but to respond. Because we will all encounter moments like this, moments that stay with us, moments that shape how we see the world, moments we cannot unsee. And in those moments, we don't always get to choose what we see, but we do get to choose how we respond. Whether we turn away or allow ourselves be'emet to see what is right in front of us. Whether we will react in the moment or respond with intention. Whether we will act alone or remain open to wisdom beyond ourselves. Because not every moment asks the same thing of us. Some moments call for silence. Some call for presence. Some call for compassion, and some call for the courage to speak and to act. But every moment asks something. And the question that we carry with us, the question our tradition asks of us, is this: what is this moment asking of me? Because once we have truly seen, we don't get to look away. And what we do next is our answer to who we are and who we are yet to be. Shabbat Shalom.